All right, friends. So you should know by now that I'm a big believer in what I call vitamin joy. So it's the idea that pain and turmoil and chaos and trauma and stress and grief, all of those things are going to visit us as humans, but joy really won't. We need to actively seek out joy like a vitamin so we can stay healthy, so we don't grow up to be jaded and bitter and judgy and bitchy. We can, so many of us can just focus on the negative, and that's what we become. And then when we die, we wish we had done something different. We wish we had paid attention or gotten a little bit more joy. So if you don't get your vitamin C, D, B, A, all of those vitamins, you're going to get sick. You're going to get malnourished. Joy is a vitamin. With that being said, I'd like to bring a little bit of a bit of a dose of vitamin joy to you today with a story from my past. Okay, I met my husband Isaac in 2008. We moved in together in 2009. This story comes from 2009. So I moved into Isaac's house, and in his basement was a picture. We called it, pardon the expression, we called it the Heroin Jesus painting, because Isaac's grandmother was a very religious person, and she had passed at this point. She was a big fan of Jim Bakker. Not sure if you remember Jim Bakker from back in the day, a televangelist. And when he went to prison for fraud, he was selling paintings, and there was this painting of Jesus with his hands out. He wasn't crucified, but he was just standing there with his hands out, and it was a little creepy. We did not want to throw the painting away for obvious reasons, but we did not want to keep it, so we had to come up with an idea. At that point in time, I had, well, a few years prior to that, I had worked at Home Depot, met a woman there. For the purpose of today's little story, we're just going to call her Susie. That's not her actual name, but we're just going to call her Susie. Now, Susie was kind of scandalous, and we were friends. She had a son that was my age, and, we would do the play date thing. But Susie was a single woman, and she was a little scandalous. Early one morning, like 4:30, Isaac and I were up really early. We thought we would play a prank on scandalous Susie. So we decided to bring this painting of Jesus, drive to her apartment, park next to her car, and quickly put the painting up next to her car, right on her driver's side door. So we figured that she'd get up in the morning, go to work, and find Jesus next to her car. Well, come to find out that scandalous Susie was not home that night, and she was being kind of scandalous. She wasn't home. Mind you, she was also raised Catholic, so that we're going to kind of throw that in here. She was spending the night with a married man. And we had no idea. We just thought she was in her apartment sleeping. Well, shortly after we dropped that painting off, she gets a ride home from this married man, pulls into her driveway, and sees a picture of Jesus next to her car. And she decides to call me because I was the only person that she could lean into, and she called me, and she was crying because she had just been dropped off by her married lover, and saw this picture of Jesus next to her car, and she was really crying, and I couldn't hold the prank. I had to let scandalous Susie know that she had Jesus because of us. Now, what had happened to the painting was it became a prank. She took it, put it in the back seat of somebody's car. That person took it, put it in the back of somebody's truck. We ended up with it again, and then finally it was just, heroin Jesus was making the rounds to all of the people in our friend group, and somebody finally took the painting and gave it to their grandmother because they thought it was sacrilegious what we were doing. So who knows where heroin Jesus is. But I don't know Scandalous Susie anymore. She took a hard turn right, became mega MAGA, and could no longer talk to her gay friends because of that. And I just think of her, running around with a married man. All of a sudden, got her version of morals and couldn't be friends with us anymore. Anyways, hope that story brings you a little bit of joy. And when you're focused on the darkness and the grief in our world, remember out there, Scandalous Susie, once upon a time came home from an overnight tryst with a married man to find a picture of Jesus on her car. So all my love to you. I hope that gives you a little bit of laughter, a little bit of grin, because it certainly does me. And so keep your chin up, stay calm, carry on, take care of yourself.